In the past decade, we've seen this kind of explosion in defensive line techniques, and one of those have been popularized by Pete Jenkins, who is a legendary defensive line coach. He's the one that Kirby Smart references. You hear him all over the place in terms of reference. And one of the things that he's created is essentially two ways of playing defensive line technique. You have an attack react and a react attack. One is for a single gap defense. The other is for that gap and a half or two gap defense that has really become popularized as the spread has evolved. What we're going to do today is look at two clips that illustrate the two different techniques and kind of go over why those techniques are being used in those particular defenses. But before we do that, let's get into the technique so that we understand how to identify it and then what are those defensive linemen being taught. The first one we're going to learn is attack react. And this is essentially the base way that a lot of defensive linemen have been playing for ages. And the way that we're doing this is essentially we are trying to penetrate the line of scrimmage. We are going to attack upfield, and then we will react to the blocks that we see. Essentially, who are we the half shade on? So you can see that our defensive linemen are shaded here. We're in a shade. We're going to attack upfield, and then I will react to the block. If, for instance, if we get the guard going away, I will then close, right? If the guard comes to me, I'm going to either continue to work vertically or I'll try and swim across. This is where you see these quick swims, these defensive line movements that are really quick to try and get away from the blocker. This is a base stance. So the back is flat. They're almost in a sprinter stance. Typically, we're looking at interior defensive linemen. You can use these techniques as well with the defensive ends, but for this purpose, we're just looking at interior defensive linemen. They have a flat back. Their man side hand is down. You can technically say that this is a shade because his man side hand is to the center. He's essentially in the gap and not necessarily in a G technique or a 2-eye. The visual key here for them is I am looking at the tip of the pad of that offensive lineman. I'm looking for that. Where is it coming to me? Is it going away? The departure angle of that. I'm going to bring my hip. So I'm going to explode first, then get my hands, then bring my feet through. So that's kind of the key term. I'm taking off like a sprinter. I'm popping my hips through. Then I'm going to make sure my hands come up to the offensive lineman. And then I'm going to bring my feet across. I want thumbs up. And what I'm really looking for is kind of that breastplate to armpit. I'm working half a man. I'm not trying to work to the front. I'm working half a man. I want to strike and run my feet through. I am a one gap technique. I am attacking vertical. Then I'm reacting to the block. These are the key elements of that. Now let's transition to react attack. Notice how the stance changes. Now we are almost flat foot, or we are toe to instep, toe to instep. You can be in a Frogger stance. I've seen that as well, where you have both hands down, but it really doesn't matter what hands down. It's the most comfortable hand. You could still do some defensive linemen, a defensive line coach are still going to want the man side hand down, and that's fine. There's different ways of doing this. Trust me. So reset the line of scrimmage is really what we are trying to do. We are trying to reset the line of scrimmage. I'm not trying to penetrate it anymore. I'm trying to stagnate and hold that line of scrimmage. I'm trying to push that line of scrimmage back. The visual key here is screws of the helmet. So what that tells me, I'm trying to work to the face of the offensive lineman. So 95 here is going to work to 70. Our defensive lineman here, I think this is 56, is going to work to 71. Even though we're in 2-3s, which is a common, the Chargers use this as a common way against gun runs, especially zone gun runs. I want to step to the face of the guard. I am not trying to penetrate the gap. I'm trying to mirror. So I'm actually going to bring my feet first. So I'm actually going to bring my feet up so that my feet are now even. Then I'm going to place my hands. They're going to be thumbs up, both hands in the pits. I'm trying to get to the chest, and then I'm bringing my hips. And so that is where I bring my feet, hands, then hips, and that's where we get the explosion. So notice how this is more of a react because I'm waiting for this lineman to move. If he moves to me, great. Now I can penetrate right on top of them. I'm trying to get to the face. I'm trying to play head up. This is the old school nose two gap technique, except for we've modified it for the modern game so that we can play it from a shade. So we want thumbs up, both hands in the pits, head in the primary. So no matter what, we want to tell our guys. So which is where we get our reduction from. So let's say that we want the three technique to the running back. He will work here and get his eyes into. So I'm working to the face of the guard, and then I'm getting my eyes into the B gap. For him, if he's going to be the nose, then I'm going to work to the face, and I'm going to get my head in the A gap. I have a primary gap and a secondary gap. And so what I want to do is essentially get on the face. I'm going to put my head in my primary. If the ball crosses me, then I can cross back with it. I want to slow everything down. It's the linebackers that become the two gap instead of necessarily these defensive linemen becoming two gap. They can play both gaps only when the ball comes across. You still have a primary, you still have a secondary. This isn't the old school nose. It essentially is trying to just clog the A gap by proximity because we see so many spread offenses. We see so many different volumes of different runs. We have wide zone, so I have to be able to play scoop. So a guy that's like 350 pounds playing a head up on the center doesn't necessarily help us in a lot of these instances. So again, let's rehash this before we go to the film and really look at this. We have attack, react, single gap, penetration. I react after I've already made my steps. React, I want to get to the face of the guard, and then I attack off of his leverage and the ball playing a gap and a half technique. Now let's get into the tape. D'Amico Ryans is part of that crew. Robert Saleh also is in this. This is the Shanahan wide nine style. Schwartz is in the same mold as this with the Browns. They're trying to see got this kind of technique when we attack, react is really good with under center runs because I want to get penetration vertical. I want to get vertical. And what happens a lot of times in this is where we see a mixture of it. You can see that we have a Frogger stance here. So this guy might actually be playing react attack, but inside we want to play attack react. So we want to get vertical columns because a lot of times under center, we're getting vertical runs. So we actually want to match that path. In the shotgun, we're going to see we want to be lateral because the run's lateral. We want to slow it down. So here we see a lot of wide nine. Watch the linebackers. They kind of have an idea of where they're going to go. As the ball is snapped, you can see that 98 and 91, they are trying to get going vertical right now. Watch how they're just trying to run through everything. Okay. 91 does a really good job of getting in that double, but then he's trying to get vertical. 98 as well. Watch how he's going, and just 98 is trying to get vertical through this gap. He's seeing that guy's basing, and then he's just trying to get vertical, and then I'm reacting to the block. So I'm trying to get into my guy. Once I feel the double team, then I work my double team technique. Watch how the linebackers are all fitting their gap. Watch how they're working vertically into their gap. We have our safety that's going to be in charge of the B gap. You got 39 right here that's going to be in the strong side A. You have 0 in the strong side C, and then you have 20 working to the B. Everybody is vertical. Attacking. We are going to tackle the ball carrier on our way. A lot of people like this as well because everybody's a pass rusher, right? So you have a different type of interior defensive lineman. You're not going to have the big noses. Basically everybody inside is a 3 technique. And so you can see here, everybody's attacking vertical. 55 is trying to just get vertical. Once he sees the space, he's just trying to swim and then get vertical. So you have 98 and 91, both trying to get vertical, then work into their double team. It's a really nice double team technique here by 91. Stagnate, shed, and then get vertical. Everybody meet. So that is attack, react. Now let's look at react, attack. The Chargers were one of the best teams at doing this technique. Notice again, these guys' feet are relatively square. What they're both going to try and do is work to the face of their interior lineman. And that's going to then float the center. He's going to be invited. Again, we've got shotgun, right? So we've got horizontal runs. So I want to match that with the horizontal pass. So this is going to be react, attack. So we get the motion as the ball. Watch how they're working to just match the offensive lineman. Okay, watch 56 and 95 both match and then try and get their hands on the shoulder. Now, 95 can't get there so because he's going to get scooped. So what does he do? He prepares for the double and then he's just trying to reset. Once he gets the release, he goes. But 56 is a prime example of, again, I'm trying to work to the face of that guard. I'm going to react to him. Then I'm going to attack. Notice how then once he reacts to it, he feels that zone. He reacts by, or he attacks by swimming and getting vertical through. 95 does the same thing. He tries to step to the face of the guard. Look, here's the thing. It's kind of the same way with corners. When you tell a corner, hey, if you get an out, you get a release, you have to get your hands on. Sometimes you just can't get your hands on it because of the release. So instead of doing that, you're reacting to it. So 95 is trying to work to the face of the guard. He sees that he can't. He sees that he can't. He's going to get the block back. So he's just walling off, and he's going to let the tackle push him there, which is a really nice way of finishing on top. So this is a good example of, again, all of these guys too. Look at 52 over here is just playing. He's trying to get his feet square. He's trying to settle. Notice how everybody is trying to hold and reset that line of scrimmage. It allows the linebackers to slow down a bit and then really check. But this is a prime example of react attack. In this last shot, I think it's important to watch these guys side by side so you can really see the difference in technique. One of the problems with when you start explaining this technique, it sounds really simple, but it's not. And it's hard to tell unless you put them side by side. So we are going to get our react guys and we are going to get our attack guys and watch how everybody reacts differently. Watch the linebackers. Okay, the linebackers are doing the exact same thing as the linemen, right? So if I am reacting, I'm holding, and then I fit. Right? If I am attacking, I'm attacking my gap. It's single gap. I just got to go. Right? So you can see the difference too in the offense, in the defensive linemen. Watch how the Texans defensive linemen are working vertically through their gap while we get our Chargers defensive linemen trying to work to the face of their offensive linemen, reset that line of scrimmage. And so this is a good example in this side by side of illustrating what it looks like for a react attack versus an attack react. Much like anything in modern football now, you have to have multiple ways of doing things. If you only do something one way, you're going to get caught. Now, there are different philosophies within this. So you have a set of defensive coaches that want to attack everything. I want a pass rush. So I am going to attack and then I'm going to react. I'm going to make vertical penetration, vertical columns. I'm going to set that up. I want my linebackers playing fast. And that's what we saw from the Texans. You see this again from the Browns. That's another good example. When I only have one gap and I'm playing a shade on an offensive lineman, it makes everything really quick. And then I am also going to be able to then attack the passer. So if we get a pass set, I'm already going downhill. So one of the things that you kind of lose when you go to a react attack is you lose that ability to really pass rush through the middle. And so that's one of the reasons why a lot of teams kind of don't want to use it all the time. That's why you want to carry two techniques. As we saw with the Chargers, one of the problems you get is you got to have two big guys inside, right? You're playing with two noses. They are a gap and a half. They're not penetrating. We're not getting it. So if we want to attack the offense, now we've got a blitz, which changes a lot of different things. So again, hopefully from this, you can see this is one of those coach speak things that people are like, oh yeah, it's attack react, or oh, it's react attack, but then they don't necessarily go into it. Hopefully you're able to come out of this with a better understanding. And so you can visually see the difference between an attack react and a react attack defensive line.